Hey, remember us? It's the A to Z podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, at Akron Jackson, at Dre Knott on most of your favorite social media platforms. A to Z podcast.com, facebook.com/A to Z podcast. Shouts as always to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks, our longtime friends in Hudson, but always open at AmericanFireworks.com. Thanks you guys for listening. Thanks for being patient. We know it's been a few weeks. Listen, it's just a tough time of year. We got some things cooking up for the start of the season. It's about 3-4 weeks away. We're going to roll most of those out at once, and we can't wait to do that. But frankly, I've been working all day, and Dre's been working at night. And a couple times it's been different. It has. So he's on the phone. He's not on the normal setup today, but we wanted to do this. We enjoy doing this. We really, as I say this all the time because I mean it, we think it's really cool that you guys ask for more episodes and tell us you listen and get your friends and your neighbors and your cousins to listen. So I think it's at our best when we're in football season. We talk anything. We talk life. We talk sports. We do get excited and venture into mature/immature subjects. So if you're new here and if there are kids in the car, if you're in a work environment, put on your earbuds or come back to A to Z at another time. We would never want anyone to get in trouble for listening to A to Z. Someone who's never been in trouble in his life is my partner, Andre Knott.
I stay in trouble. I do miss you guys. I do miss that we haven't been able to do these. As Zach said, we got a lot of stuff coming hopefully soon. This is the best time of the year. I don't even think we got to talk about – did we talk about the NBA Finals? Does that pass us?
I think it was just – no. Yeah, I think it was just about to end the last time we did one.
Yeah. I think we talked about we haven't talked about the draft. Because, we did. We were ready.
Yeah, it was 2 days before the draft. Yes.
Because I was telling you they better draft somebody taller than me. And they did, thank God. It's football season and baseball season. I don't know why, never mind. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we're doing this. It won't be the longest, won't be the shortest. I hope you guys are getting ready for the best time of the year. I don't know why I do know why I've heard so many people in Northeast Ohio try to rush through summer and get to the fall. But never do that, guys and girls, because once it's there, it's going to get cold sooner or later. And once it gets cold sooner or later outside, then it's like that for 6 months straight. So enjoy this heat that we're going through. I got excited, Zach, because my sister sent me over my nephew's football schedule just a couple days ago. And so I'm excited for that, to see Pee Wee football, to see pro football, to see college football. Let me start with this, though. I got to ask you, what is your take upon what's happening in college football and with Texas and Oklahoma?
Yeah, I was genuinely stunned for about 4 seconds. And then I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. And Texas has been treated as a punching bag in this scenario, and I'm glad that they have. They have earned that, right, with their mix of arrogance and lack of results. Texas is still a huge name brand in football. It still has a fan base and a money base and all of these things, right? And certainly their battle for relevance here in the year 2021 is not going to get any easier doing that. But this is just the way sports are headed, right? And them in Oklahoma had this opportunity, and, sorry, Baylor. Sorry, Oklahoma State, right? Sorry, Big 12. It's been fun, but, Texas has been passed by Matt Campbell in Iowa State and is running for even more money in the hills. So,
yeah, but see, you're hitting on something, and it's true, but Texas has gotten passed by Iowa State because they've been incompetent in keeping Texas. Or even moving with the times and being stuck in being Texas. Is this the beginning of the end of the NCAA, though, as we know it? Though?
Yeah, well, that's two different things here. Look, we haven't really talked about the NLI thing that came into play, on July 1st, I think it was.
Right, right.
Is it the beginning of the end? I think that's a fair question, and I think in some ways it is, but there still has to be some governing body, Dre. There still has to be someone in charge. So was the NCAA archaic, behind the times, ignorant to what was happening, not with what was going on? Sure. Is this the beginning of the end of college football and we're going to end up with 40 programs and it's going to be basically minor league pro football? Way down the road, that might be inevitable. and every time in the history of this podcast that we've talked about paying players or doing different things or what's next, I've said that's my fear. I'm all for it. This NLI stuff is overdue, right? The players getting more and the old guys in the suits getting less is way, way, way overdue.
No doubt.
But as you go about it, kids losing opportunities and sports going away at lots of places, but specifically places that are close to us, right? And in the MAC and in other places. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good for society. I don't think that's good for anything. So, what happens 30 years from now, I don't know. Do I think there's going to be some more immediate fallout in terms of what Texas and Oklahoma did and some reshuffling with some other conferences? Yeah, but I still think we're a ways away from it becoming just one super conference or just 3, to 4 super conferences. I still think the current model and the NLI should help this, will sustain for a generation, right? I don't think that major changes are coming. Now, look, that might depend on how you define major. The Pac-12 playing games at 9 a.m. local time so they can get in the prime TV slots. Well, is that major? I don't know.
No, it's not. That's majoring in the minor. But see,
the playoff expanding imminently to 12 teams. Yeah. Sure, and half the teams being SEC and half the country being fine with that and half the teams being mad at that. Is that a major change? Probably. But in terms of okay, 130 schools play football, and the NCAA tournament is still every March, and there's still 8 or 9 conferences that even a casual fan can name. I don't think that's going anywhere right now. Even though I do think there's going to be a little more shuffling in the wake of this.
Yeah, let me say this. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I do. I don't know what the future of college sports will look like, but I do think this is the beginning of something that we have never seen before with the Texas and Oklahoma situation. And what I'll say is something I don't say very often, but I hope that there are some smart, innovative, young and old minds that can come together, something that America is really struggling with right now, people coming together of different cultures and different backgrounds, and really think about not only the top 10 programs, but the bottom 10 programs, and we find a system that helps all, not just the moneymakers. I understand the college football, high school football, and that's a different story, but I understand what college football means to a lot of universities. Let's be honest, a lot of universities are able to have multiple sports and have multiple teams because of the money that they bring in because of their football programs. That's not going to change. But I think where we're at with this NILs and everything else, money is starting to become a part of this, and without real governing of how that's going to happen, there's going to be some situations and some kids that are in way better situations than others. It's always been like that with the guys in the suits, and they've been able to sit up in their ivory towers and take the fruits of the labor of what's been going on down on the field. They've got to find a way because their money's not going to be as long as it used to be. Their power's not going to be as long as it used to be. But I tend to agree with Zach. We do need a governing body outside of the green paperbacks because money is truly the governing body, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. But there's got to be some structure, right? And like with this NLI thing, we're in the early stages. Like states are passing different legislation on it, and the NCAA is still saying players can't advertise for liquor companies or for gambling companies, and the schools still have mega $1 million deals with shoe companies. So a player at Alabama, which is Nike, or at least I think it is, right, is not going to be able to go get $500,000 from Adidas, right? So all of that stuff needs to be regulated. It's going to work itself out. And what's going to happen is what I've always said, and most of these players are going to find out that they're not worth that much, but that's okay because all are going to have the opportunity to just be able to get a little bit, in some cases a little bit more than that, which always has been the case, right? What's making the rounds this week? The Ohio State freshman defensive end driving the big truck and putting on his social media account, thanks to a Mark Wahlberg Chevy for this. Well, Ohio State players have been driving really nice vehicles from local dealerships for a long, long time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never been. I can tell you from driving through Columbus and from working down there, I can tell you where a couple of the nice dealerships are in Dublin. I can tell you a couple of where the nice dealerships are in other places because they advertise on sports radio down there. But rarely in Columbus have you seen a nicer parking lot than at the Woody Hayes Center, right?
No doubt. No doubt. And I mean, and that's been but see, that's once again, I think I don't want to say it's like unearthing the ugly truths of college sports. Because when because and that goes back it goes back further than when we were in high school. Like you said, it's always been one of the best parking lots in America, down at the Woody Hayes Center. Always. I know in the early '90s, I remember seeing brand new Blazers and different cars that you didn't see everywhere else. And it's been like that at Texas, Alabama. You name the big colleges, they already live in a different world than per se the MAC schools. You said. I guess what I'm getting at is I'm fine with the kids making money. I am. I don't have a problem with it. If you can make money off your likeness, you should be able to make money off of it. My thing is, how do these universities and these presidents come together, Zach, and make sure we don't lose the MAC college teams? What happens to the Youngstown State? It's a trickle-down effect, and there's way more Kent State's, Akron U's than Ohio State's throughout the rest of the country.
Yes. Yeah, so no, that it's going to be interesting, and it's just a different time in the world as it relates to sports, and everybody wants theirs, and they want it now, right?
Yep.
And we see what's happening, right? Like, the Lakers got Russell Westbrook, which jumps off the page. Well, are those pieces going to fit, Dre?
Well, I mean, I'll say this. I'd rather that than Dennis Schroeder, and I'd rather have.
I get it.
Always go back to.
I'm just saying, the model for LeBron's entire career has been surrounding him with shooters. That's not Russ's game, right?
Correct. I know.
And look, I think now, Grandpa LeBron at this stage, Russ doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the regular season will probably be good for LeBron and for the Lakers. But
I'll say this about the Lakers, and I'll let you go. They're set up for a 7-game series, not an 82-game season. If they're healthy after 82 games, look out, but they won't be.
No, they won't be. And again, they're going to get in the playoffs against a really disciplined defensive team like Phoenix this year, who's going to dare them to shoot threes, right?
Right.
And we'll see what happens. It's a long way to go. We did this right before the Cavs drafted Evan Mobley. It was a very poorly kept secret how the top 3 of the draft was going to go. I don't have any problem with the pick. I talked about him back in March. He's a Chris Bosh clone. He comes from really good bloodlines, was a 1-year college player. Like, the upside is there. I just still think and will continue to think Jalen Suggs has major star potential. And maybe they'll live to regret that pick. So will the Raptors, who had the 4 pick and still didn't pick Jalen Suggs. I don't know. It's football season for me. I haven't seen any NBA Summer League. I've maybe caught up on 30 seconds of the highlights, but a couple days in, I have no takes, no feelings there. I will say this about the Cavs, and we never spend too much time because they frankly haven't been worth it. No. I got to think, knowing a little bit about how pro sports organizations work, right? I got to think that this GM and this front office probably have until this coming February's trade deadline, or they're in big trouble, right? And the problem with that is, Drew, there's no way to me that the reality of the situation meets that window, right? Is that fair to say? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, we'll go to the East. Look how far behind they are in the East.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is just on the top of my head. Milwaukee is the reigning champion. Say what you will, they're the champion. The Nets, really good. I want to say the Knicks were the 4th seed this past year. I don't know how. Atlanta's got an up-and-coming rising star. Philadelphia has an MVP candidate if he ever stays healthy, but he won't. And they're going to make a big trade, I would think, at some point in time, and bring in more. Like I said, off the top of my head. All right, let me ask you this. Neither one of us know the rosters really well. I think I'd rather be the Charlotte Hornets than the Cleveland Cavaliers right now.
Yeah, although I saw them spend a bunch of money on Kelly Oubre, and that seemed a little desperate. But I don't know I don't know the ins and outs of their situation. But yeah, look,
that's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the finest basketball player of all time, and one of the worst dressers of all time, and we still go out and buy all his damn sneakers.
Well, let me say this: you guys want some optimism? The Charlotte Hornets have been as bad as the Cavs have for 15 fucking years, right?
Yeah.
And a year ago, in the summer if we would have been talking about NBA, and who knows what we were talking about in the upside-down world we were living in. Talking about the Charlotte Hornets being on the right track seemed crazy. Well, they had the number 3 pick in the draft. They hit the right player, and now all of a sudden the fortunes have changed. So maybe.
Right. It's just but to go off of what you're saying, they've set it up very well for the next guy that'll run with it. You know, like I don't see, and I like Jamie Bickerstaff. I think he's a decent enough coach. But when this thing turns, if it turns, I doubt he or Kobe will have very much to do with it.
Yeah, and that's hard. Like, you know, we've seen it right here. We followed it on this podcast, and you've seen it here in Cleveland. In the NFL, there's no such thing as a 5-year plan. There's just not, right? In the other 2 sports, is there one? You know, can you follow one? We'll see. You know, I feel like this, Trey. I feel like the Cavs are going to move Colin Sexton. They didn't because they didn't take a guard, and they didn't because they think probably that his value can be maximized later as he plays well and some other team either falters or loses a guy or sees him, you know, for what he would be as a scorer, the 3rd or 4th piece on a winning team, right? And then at this deadline, as I mentioned, which probably is Kobe's deadline, probably happens in that, you know. The other team in town, the Indians, soon to be Guardians, they're playing for next year. You know, that's obvious. We'll see how that goes. The Browns are playing for right now, right? And
yeah. Let me say this about the Guardians, Indians, whatever they are. You're right, and I guess. And look, I know I'll say this. I'm too close sometimes to the fire to have the feelings other people have. I didn't have expectations of playoffs or World Series in March or April. Still don't in August. But, when we say in other sports, I want to say this right because I don't want to be judged quickly upon this. In other sports, we talk about rebuilding, and you can't rebuild and contend at the same time, and I tend to agree with that. I think what they're going through so far, is there growing pains in this? Is every night fun? No. But I think they're kind of doing it in a way of they're going to be competitive and compete for the division in a year. With help, obviously. You lose 3/4 of your rotation. I don't care who you are. You're not going to be in the running for things. But in finding out about some of these other pitchers, like McKenzie, like Quantrill, hell, like Eli Morgan, they have replenished the depth in their starting pitching throughout the organization that was greatly needed 8 months ago. Now, to the guy that goes to 4 games a year and watches on the TV every night, and kid wants to still wear his Francisco Lindor jersey, does that make him feel better about the 2021 season? Probably not. But it's the process of every sports team. And the process, and this is what, and I mean this wholeheartedly in the nicest way possible. Why the Guardian Indians don't get the same patience that the Browns have had for the last 20 years amazes me. We should be excited about the Browns and where they're at and what they should be able to do this season. But I would say my recall goes back to I'm cautiously optimistic because we've been here before and we've watched teams not have the maturity to continue to grow. We've watched the ownership or the leadership not have the patience to let things kind of cultivate and come together and switch it up again. I think we're past all those things. My fingers are crossed that they have the maturity, that the patience is now upstairs as well and good. I just don't want, on October 1st, they're 2-4 or 2-3 or whatever, and hear people ready to go to 480 Bridge and jump.
Well,
you still got to be patient.
When I was driving this morning and started to realize that we were probably going to get a chance to do this podcast today, this is something I wanted to throw to you, and you hit on probably 60% of it there, so I want you to tell me, right? Like, the one thing the Guardians have always done, right, is develop young pitching. And that's manifested in different ways. It's been used in different ways, but that's what they've always been really good at, like top 3 in the league at, right? Or top 5, correct. Right? So this year, it just seems like guys either weren't ready or were pushed in too early, a combination of both. And especially when you lost the guys you lost to injury, it just wasn't going to happen, right? But realistically, knowing the realities of baseball and knowing that every team outside of 5 or 6 is going to have to push their chips in for a small window. Don't you think that the experience from this year, right, and guys are healthy next year and guys are more ready, like you mentioned, and like Tristan McKenzie and like Quantrill, right? Like, you add that to the shit division that they're in, and expectations should be high for next year, right?
Bingo. I think so. I literally do, and I literally do, because I can see it. Now, offensively, they're going to still figure some things out. But from what I've been told, they're going to spend money. They're going to get, so if you're not going to go out and get a Francisco Lindor, but there's going to be good players out there. You suddenly can have a rotation, and this is, August 11th or whatever. But you're going to, Kyle Quantrill told me something yesterday that stood out. He goes, Andre, I don't give a damn that we've got Shane Bieber, and he's best friends with Bieber. He goes, I don't give a damn that we've got Cy Young Award winners and Rookie of the Years or whatever in our rotation. Because if we got 3 Cy Young Award winners in our rotation, well, I'm looking to be the 4th, and Tristan's looking to be the 5th. Like you said, they have found a way to cultivate starting pitching and arms in a way that in this division, they're going to have an opportunity. Look, the White Sox are one of the best rosters in all of baseball, and they can barely beat the Indians every time they face them. Think about that. They are the best, and their roster 1 through 26 to me goes against anybody in baseball, and they struggle against the Indians every series they have. I think I think that you should be excited for next season for them because of what they should have. Their rotation could be one of the best ones in baseball because they know who they are. They know their identity.
I'll say this. I'm no baseball expert. I've said that. I've laughed at of all the messages that we've gotten over about this podcast over the years. The people that are mad that I poo-poo baseball are some of the best because we appreciate you listening. And I did watch the All-Star game, 4 weeks ago now, and there were like 5 guys in it I'd never heard of. But like, I know enough to know.
Did you yell dinger?
I'm going to refer that question to my attorney. That's just what I think from following along. I went to a game a couple weeks ago. I do listen or watch to some level most nights. I follow it. I'm a sports fan. I loved the Olympics that just ended because every other day I had basketball to follow. On some other days, I started watching soccer and beach volleyball and track, which is, the sprints are made for TV. It's great stuff. I'm just a sports fan. And so, of course, because of this podcast, because my podcast partner is one of my best friends and he's with the team, like I follow. I care, but I don't, right? And especially when football starts, like that's my job. That's my career. And every day in Berea, mixed in with all the stuff that comes with it when you're covering a team that's legit, with Hall of Fame weekend coming, with all the, the moving parts. Like, I haven't followed. I did not know they lost the game last night. When I went to bed, they were winning the game, right? But I also know that it's about next season and not this season.
Right. And I'll say this about Terry Francona, then I want to get into the Browns and football. I hear you. We hear you out there. People hear you. I hear people that have never been to a press conference, never met the man. And I get from afar, you're like, how's this old shit? And I can call him that because that's what I call him. To come back and manage. They're not saying this out loud, and I'm not speaking for him. There's nothing in Terry Francona's mind that thinks he's not going to come back and manage baseball. I can tell you that's what DeMarlo Hale feels. I can tell you that's what Sandy Alomar feels. I can't speak for everybody else, but the coaching staff is working right now thinking that Terry Francona will be the manager of the Guardians as soon as he can.
Okay, interesting.
I still text with him daily. We still mock each other, make fun of each other daily. The moment he got out of his hip surgery a couple Mondays ago, he texted me a picture of him limping around his hotel, his hospital room, and I sent back, man, you and Tony La Russa could go to the Olympics. It'd be great. And the one thing he says every April, every time he turns a year older, puts up a middle finger to all of his friends that took the under. So all the people on the radio keep yelling. So all the guys that keep, you know who you are. You talk on the radio like you know everything about him and everything about his situation. Keep doing it. Because they'll be throwing up that middle finger to you taking the under as well come next season.
All right, so let's do it this way, Dre. Let's just, because I've been there, let's just have you fire some Browns questions at me, and then I got something else we need to close on. So let's just do it that way.
All right. All right. We got to start the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks. What is that? Josh Allen gets that contract. Jason. I can say this because Lloyd listens, and Lloyd knows I disagree with Lloyd. I don't think that he's worth more than Josh Allen. I'm not putting this on you because you are there every day. I like what Buffalo did. I think what Josh Allen has done in his first 3 years says more than what it says about Baker Mayfield. This isn't hating on Baker Mayfield. Josh Allen's body, I will always go off of what a former scout GM has told me. You will go long-term and you will stick your neck out a little bit longer for a physical specimen at certain positions than you will a guy that's undersized. Like Myles Garrett is a physical specimen. So you go all out. Not only is he a great player, not only does he have great skill set, you look at his body and you realize even if he loses a little bit of athletic ability, even if he loses a little bit of first step or this or that, he's big enough, strong enough that he can still hold up the edge if he loses all that other crap. And he can still be great at that. And we've watched that with like Reggie White for kids. Like Reggie White wasn't as explosive, in his Green Bay days as he was in Philadelphia, but he was so skilled that you paid him because he still was a great player. I say that about Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield because, Josh Allen's not going to be able to run and take hits all of his life, but you would think he's going to be able to take more hits than a guy that's smaller statured than Baker Mayfield. I will say this. I don't know how to give contracts out to Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson. I don't.
Right.
So I ask you, how does that play out? And I got a tidbit from you. What's going on with Ward? Is he getting ready to get paid? Like, is that why he's not practicing that much, or is he really just sore?
All right. First things first. If you think Baker Mayfield is worth as much as Josh Allen is, then this podcast probably isn't for you because we tell the truth here, right? That being said, this is tricky for a couple of reasons. One being there's just not much precedent for the Browns in this kind of situation, right? And we think really highly of the guys in charge, and we think they're really smart, and we think they have a chance to open a window that this franchise hasn't seen since it wasn't this franchise, right? That being said, like, they've just made really smart, sound decisions so far. Miles was a no-brainer, and Nick Chubb was a no-brainer, right? They needed some offensive tackles. They went and got some, right? They hired a smart coach. He hired some smart assistants. They had a really good year. That's not to poo-poo anything. That's just the reality. So what in that says that they would want to do a deal anywhere like Allen's with Baker Mayfield? 8 years. They're not doing an 8-year deal with Baker Mayfield. No. They're not. And, guaranteed money is what counts in NFL contracts. That's NFL contract 101.
Yes.
At 43 a year, that puts Allen and Mahomes in their own league. And that's also $3 million a year more than Dak Prescott, who also should be making more than Baker Mayfield. So, as I've said, I think the Browns believe Baker is their guy. I think the Browns want Baker to be their guy. And I know that in all the plans that they have, and they're smart enough to have plans, that they have budgeted for this contract and for the scenario, which they would welcome, in which Baker just absolutely balls out and they have to pay him in the 40 to 43 range, right?
If they have to pay him that means that's the best scenario ever.
That means the absolute best scenario. I just think when you look at who's still up, Denzel, Teller, Baker, right? When you have two of your offensive linemen who are 30 and make $10 million, right. When there's a chance that your tight end that makes $10 million is just not even an average starter in any area except blocking, then you just have to be patient. And I just don't think there's any sign. I just keep saying, guys, the Browns, okay, so they could end up losing $3 million a year to Baker Mayfield, but that would mean that Baker Mayfield earned it and the Browns succeeded. So I just don't see any scenario under which they don't wait. As for Denzel, I think more than anything, Dre, it's just a really good week for him and Myles Garrett to get the week off. Camp is too long. These guys are too good, too important to what the Browns are doing. And this week, the stadium practice, going through game preparations, playing an actual game at full speed, that's for Greedy Williams, who hasn't played in a year, and that's for Greg Newsome, who's a 21-year-old rookie who looks really good, by the way. But he needs this stuff. So I do think a deal with Denzel is coming. I think a deal with Denzel will be done between next Monday and September 12th. I don't know that. I'm not reporting that. That's what I think. But I think him sitting out more than anything else is just the fact that this week's not for him. And this has been about the long game and long gains. And that's why most days when I drive to Berea, you see 1 or 2 competitive periods. We've seen very few practices over 100 minutes, right? We've seen everything. There's a plan for everything that's so new here. It seems so low bar in some ways, but I'm telling you guys, it's refreshing. It's good. Every play of practice is mapped out. Every drill of practice is mapped out. With few exceptions, the days off and the light days and the concentrations, goal line, third down, Clowney's in today, Denzel's not in today. All that's been mapped out for weeks with few exceptions. And so I think the Denzel deal's getting done. I don't know that.
Let me ask you this. You know I'm a big Nick Chubb fan. I love everything about him, how he plays, all that good stuff. The contract he took, I'm not going to say it was a hometown discount, but it made sense. It seemed like a group of people that all came together. And how often can we say that in sports? That the team and the player, they came and it all made sense. And they came together and did what was right for everybody. Does that type of contract put pressure on Denzel, on Baker, that getting the last dollar may not mean the most for the team?
I think it could. I think that's probably loosely even though it didn't occur to me, that's probably loosely what I was referencing and saying that what have the Browns done that shows you that they're willing to do that kind of investment? You know, look, if and when Baker's gets done, and I think it's eventually going to get done, it's going to be the biggest contract in team history. Now, like, that stands out because it's a superlative, right? But it honestly, like, the new CBA has been in place since 2011, guys. Like, this has been going on. That just speaks more to what they didn't have to do before, right, than anything else. Yeah. Like, right? Every other franchise has already busted that because they had guys, right? And that's whether there was a guy they drafted in the top 5 who hit or someone they got accidentally later and broke the bank. Like, that's what that is. So, yeah. Does it put a little pressure? I don't know. Would Baker eventually say to his agent, I don't care about what Dak makes and what Josh Allen makes? You know, I don't know. Is your point about let Lamar and Baker show you a little more probably a valid one? Yeah. I just think in the realm of where the cap is going in 2023 and in the realm of rewarding your guys and doing it knowing it's coming, like, I'm not going to get worked up one way or another about 1 million, 4 million, or where he ranks in that, right?
No doubt.
And, like,
No doubt.
It's just the thing. Like, this is why I never doubted that Chubb was going to get his deal. Because when it comes to making this work, and in the not-for-long league, a lot of these don't work, it's way more about the player continuing to produce than what position he plays. It just is, right? Like, obviously, Jared Goff and Todd Gurley going bad was bad for the Rams, but they took on that and a whole bunch of other. They chose this. The Browns are not there yet. You know, the Browns cut Sheldon Richardson and structured the deals of Clowney and Troy Hill and Malik Jackson in a certain way to give them some runway. You know, they've got the resources to do some things. They're not there yet where they're constantly refining that mortgage every hour like the Steelers have done for the better part of a decade. Like the Rams have done every hour for the past 3 years, right? Like,
but that's coming.
They're not there yet.
Part of success, though. That's part of success. It's weird to say that because it's awkward and it seems like bad business and it seems like you're constantly paying Peter to, you know, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Mm-hmm. But it's actually just the business of the NFL nowadays, right? The business of the NFL in today's world is you sometimes have to deal with you sometimes have to move contracts and guys that you thought were going to be your future, guys that you thought were going to be the faces of your franchise. It happens. It's just how it is. And the great organizations can maneuver through that, right? The great organizations can go from, you know what, we thought Gurley was going to be our running back, and we thought this guy was going to be our quarterback in Goff. But we're still, I mean, people look at the Rams, and I don't see people saying the Rams aren't going to be competitive in NFC West. They've got a system of doing things. And now, look, New Orleans has been behind the gun for years with the money that they've spent between Breeze and different guys.
Yes, that's a team I wanted to mention. Yes, absolutely.
And they've continued to find ways, as you know, to be competitive, put great teams out there, and a team that they're trying to get back to the Super Bowl year in and year out. So you can do it. You brought up Newsome. I think that's the guy that everybody wants to hear about and talk about. I'm very curious about Greedy as well. Seeing Greedy listed as a starter, I mean, I know that means nothing on August 10th, 11th, but it kind of says something considering he didn't play. And I'm actually excited about watching the safeties play and just reading what I've read so far.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 safeties have not been in there in camp. So, you're looking at a situation now where Delpit's a rookie and he's not really had any training camp in his second year. So he's still a rookie to me, right? So scratch him for the first month of the season making any kind of contribution, I think, right? But with Greedy, I mean, this is a guy that's played. This is a guy that's been through it and worked his way back, and he has to go in a game and do it because he's got to trust it himself, right? And the Browns have to evaluate him in that scenario. And that's not to say that if he has 2 interceptions of a rookie on Saturday night that he's going to the Hall of Fame, or if they torch him once that he's a bum. It doesn't mean that. He needs to go do it and then come back and get through the soreness and go through the corrections with his coaches and then play, right? So, coaches feed us a lot of BS, and Kevin Stefanski is a very smart guy, and he has a very polished and above his years way of not answering a question, right? But one thing I'm never going to press him on or question him on when I come on here and he's away and I still am on a microphone, they're going to need all their corners, Dre. And I internally, I don't really think they're concerned about who plays the first snap. I think they understand that if a rookie's out there in week 1 in Kansas City, that rookie's going to get attacked, right? But I just think when they look at 17 games, they know they're going to need these guys. They know they're going to need them. Troy Hill's 30. He's tiny. He can play any spot, right? Is he going to play 17 games? I don't know, but he can help you.
Very doubtful.
Where is Greedy mentally and physically? Well, they know better than I do because they're with him every hour of the day. But until he goes out there this Saturday, they don't know what that next step is. Exactly. And like I said, when you watch Greg Newsome in camp, guys, you get excited. Like, this kid is going to be a good NFL player. Right now, he's 21 years old and 15 practices into his career, and the first game is against the Kansas City motherfucking Chiefs. So
he's gonna get baptized.
We'll see.
Zach is telling y'all. Baptisms happen in the NFL. It's part of the deal.
Yes. So that's kind of where that stands. It's safety. Harrison's been out since the second or third day of camp. Delpit has done little, and then Redwine turned an ankle maybe early in the second week. So John Johnson looks great, and the other guy playing with the ones has been Javonte Moffett, who was an undrafted guy last year, who they like. But let's be honest, he's probably more of a practice squad special teams guy. So they have the 5th-rounder LeCount. They have not put him out there with the starters yet. That could change next Monday. So, look, the game on Saturday means a lot to 35 to 55 guys on this roster. It never meant anything to Denzel. Stefanski came out earlier today and said Baker's not going to play. Well, duh. Right? Jarvis probably isn't going to play. Chubb and Hunt should not touch the field in the preseason. And if Chubb does, it certainly wouldn't be for more than a couple plays. And even when you watch in camp, Jerry, I'll say this. Kareem Hunt is not the backup running back. Kareem Hunt is a starter and a valued piece of this offense. He gets his reps and he plays with, but they never have Kareem Hunt out there hanging around with Kyle Lauletta and the offensive backups, right? Like, when Kareem Hunt takes his turn, there's a purpose to it. And it's those backs in that offensive line that ultimately give this Browns team a chance to be different.
That's their identity. Their identity is the depth of this offense, and Kareem Hunt is a starter on 29 NFL football teams, so that's how he should get treated. How they maneuver through this preseason and how fans deal with this preseason will be very interesting to me, because there's an importance to it, but it's not about the scores. I got a feeling Urban Meyer is going to try to make an impression this weekend because Urban Meyer doesn't know what the hell he's doing on the NFL level, is what I'm taking from things. But I don't mean that in a negative way. I know he's one of the best football coaches ever, and he's from Northeast Ohio. But I've already just read some things and seen some things where it's like, it feels like Butch Davis all over again down in Jacksonville. We'll see.
It kind of does. And we will see. But, yeah, I think everyone kind of believes that on Saturday night the Browns are going there to work on a few specific things and get a better idea for players 40 through 60 on their roster. and get the hell back on that bus and back to that plane and home, right? We're going to play for 3 hours in 362% humidity, get their work and get out. And I think everybody thinks Urban Meyer is going to run trick plays at Tim Tebow and try to score touchdowns and win the game. So that's what the preseason's always been, and it's what you get out of it, right? And, like, I'll just say this. You know, some days in camp, you look at the Browns and you say this is an embarrassment of offensive riches, right? And, like, they're going to be really good, and I think that. Some days you look and you say, well, that was ugly. Well, sometimes it's ugly. As I mentioned, everything's scripted. So you're working on things that you're not good at. When you're working on those things for 3 days in a row, the defense knows what's coming, right? And then there's other times you just missed. Like in the 2-minute drill in the stadium practice, Baker just sucked. Early in the stadium practice, they ran one of their bootlegs, which we know he's best at and we know is the signature of this offense. One of their best bootlegs, Hooper's wide open, he drops it. So, you know, what would be a positive vibe right away for practice becomes like, come on, right? Like, we haven't run that for 4 days. We're waiting here to do it when we're with 27,000 people in the crowd and you drop the ball. So it's it's what you get out of it. I think Jadeveon Clowney and Miles have already gotten enough out of it, right? Obviously, it's been disappointing not to have Delpit and not to have Schwartz, and we're all waiting on Odell to get to the next stage and all of that. But, you know, football's back, and the main thing is Jimmy's and Joe's. You have your dudes. This team has dudes, and there's a real plan for getting them ramped up for the ones that count.
Can't wait. I'm excited. Appreciate this. I'm glad you guys – I may even want to do another one of these Friday. That's how
well, we won't be on Friday, and I'll tell you why.
You got to travel.
Drake, no, I'm not making the trip. I'm on the regular season trips.
Oh, I know what comes after.
What is the one thing in the world that I'm good at that you always tell people?
Oh, my God. He is the best, and he is the best. Other than eating chicken from our favorite chicken place, he does nothing better than stand in front of a bunch of people in shirts and ties that want to get drunk and tell you how great and bad a person is. He should do I'm trying to think of, you should be able to roast people for the rest of your life. He's going to get to roast his brother on Friday. It's going to be a genuine moment, one of the best moments of the Jackson 5's life. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, your son's going to be embarrassing.
Well, I don't think my mom's sleeping this week because she's afraid I'm going to spray F-bombs all over the wedding.
Yeah, do you have an F-bomb? Like, is there a number that you can't, like, is there like a five F-bombs?
Yeah, to her it's 0, but we're trying to meet in the middle somewhere.
So like 2.5?
So shout out to my brother. It's been a big summer, and he gets married on Friday. Shout out to you guys for listening. Shout out to American Firework. I might have to make a quick trip up there tomorrow, and we might have to light up this reception a little bit.
I might get some too, just because I couldn't even get out of work, but I want to do that. We may have to do something like that. All right,
guys. Dre's got to go. I do too. Thank you for listening. You know, there'll be preseason football on Saturday night. Next week is the biggest week of camp. It always was. The Giants come in for some real work, controlled work, where they can get some things done, and then it starts kind of feeling and looking like football's around the corner. So, you know, glad you're with us. Glad you've spread the word. We appreciate it. Watch Andre's games on TV. Cavs are on Summer League tonight. Subscribe to The Athletic, and we will talk to you soon.
Awesome. You guys talk. Be good.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks.